Hey everybody, here with a new video. This is going to be a little bit of an interesting video. As of yesterday, there is a new tygem pro account playing at 9 dawn, playing only against professionals and currently undefeated at 19-0, beating top pros like Ke, Park Young-won, Meng Tailing, who you might not know because they're a little less famous, but he's top 5 in China, so you know he's pretty good. Yeah, so anyway, new pro account, mysterious player. Some people say really strong Korean professional, others are saying Alphago or Korean Alphago, and other people are saying Lisa Doll, who's like training for the new year. Anyway, in any case, it's really exciting. The games are really interesting. They're all quite different, which is kind of cool. Not different, but there's some ideas that are a little old that pop up again. Ideas that are kind of new. Yeah, it's just interesting to look at. I'm clearly not as at the level to totally understand this game, but I thought it'd be interesting to look at and just, you know, share what we can get out of it, right? For anyone who wants to look up a player, the player's name is Master, with the parentheses P for professional, which is, yeah, the standard on tygem. And in this game, Master is white. We see in micro Chinese, this is very common. The double 4/4 point is not so common anymore, but it's still, you know, decently played, especially against Chinese openings and such. And the approach is very normal. Black takes points, also super normal. But this connection is a little not so normal. This was really popular 10 years ago or so. These days we tend to see the tiger's mouth variation followed by this kind of thing, and then an invasion. Or alternatively, this one was popular for a bit, although it's fallen a bit out of favor because if the follow-ups for black are pretty good if white doesn't answer. You can make these exchanges if you want. But we see white play this connection, and maybe white doesn't like those variations, possibly. Another idea is maybe white doesn't like the pincer by black, because with this tiger's mouth it's harder to play a follow-up against the corner because you have this Atari weakness that is always looming there. So I mean, I could go a little bit into the variation, I guess. This is pretty common. You can play the Hane, you can play the Descend, it's basically the same thing. Then you jump out, black jumps. And you kind of get into this fight. Black's pretty happy if black can more or less solidify this Moya while these two groups are fighting. The corner is small, but positionally it's not bad for black. So maybe white doesn't like that. White could not attach, white could play here, but there's still a little bit of aji here. Black could also just answer and wait to use that thinness for later. So maybe white didn't like that. Maybe white plays here because the follow-up is if you compare the pincers, right? This is much more severe. Because you just completely press black down. You have a strong group that you can now use to attack K16 from. So maybe that's why. I don't know for sure. It might also just be a little bit, if it's not an AI, if it's a person, then it's almost expected black's going to play here. The reason this, just like you felt that favor, is that there's a lot of follow-ups for black at these points against this shape that makes it very insecure. But we see white's next move is this attachment, which is really cool. First of all, this is going to not give black an opportunity to use those weaknesses. The other thing is this is like kind of two ideas in one. We saw this was actually a move that showed up in the Alphago like self-play games, which is kind of cool. Here the idea is not so much just invading. In the game, black blocks here, and we see that white gets this kind of formation, which is basically allowing white to settle the top shape and get some extra strength, which removes these options. And black already had a stone at C12, which is not worthless by any means, but because white's been pushed black once here, it's a little bit like unnecessary, and is probably going to end up a little bit inefficient or over-concentrated. But the alternative isn't really much better. Like if black extends, white can just Hana, connect, black goes down, white will maybe push once and cap or lean on the left. But white's effectively broken up the framework on the left, and it's unclear if black's going to get an efficient use out of these two stones after that moyo's been erased. Alternatively, here this is Sente, and just jumping out. Again, living in black space, decently good. There are still the follow-ups here that we talked about, but white already profited. Like, white's not just erasing black, white's building points here. So it's really a big loss for black, even if black maintains the follow-ups on the top. But in the game black plays here, which is more territory-oriented and keeps consistent with making strong shape on the left. Black also probably didn't think white could easily capture h17 and had a lot of aji here. And the following fight's quite interesting. The normal shape here is like black actually has a lot of aji here, but if white wants to kill, but we see a little bit of an interesting move. We see this empty triangle, which is threatening to capture these two stones, obviously. And black has to play here. If black plays here, white just Ataris twice, and black can't do anything, right? And obviously white can't go down, otherwise black will push up or just take, right? It's quite annoying. So we get this kind of exchange. White settles the shape, black lives up here, and then black has to make this exchange, which is, or this move by itself, and eventually white's going to answer it at e18, which basically offsets a lot of the profit loss that white had up here. Actually, white gains quite a bit by becoming strong in the center, and this move creates the endgame plays in the corner. So white actually doesn't lose very much. So at this point, black's alive at the top, a little inefficient. If you're, I don't know, low dawn player, SDK player, probably what you should do is make yourself solid, get rid of the cutting stone aji, or expand, right? Take it on a large scale. Those are the normal ideas. White doesn't like this. Center's, relatively small this early. A lot of open space on the rest of the board. White takes an enclosure. Really big point, but you have to be good at fighting, because black's going to pull this stone out, and now you have two groups that are unsettled. Now, we notice that this exchange has made it so that white's decently strong if white takes that stone. This is, again, it's stronger than these two stones, so white doesn't have to worry about it. But if you're not good at fighting, you would be concerned. I'm personally pretty comfortable with it. Like, as we see, white can just jump out, and both sides are going to jump out. So if you can read the flow a little bit, both sides are basically just going to move towards the center. And then we see, like, oh, in that case, this makes a lot of sense. We take a lot of cash, and so the center is not important, and so we're both moving there, but it's kind of not an important issue. And we see this kind of flow. Black jumps, white jumps, black jumps. White descends. It's quite big. Black descends again. Timing is important. I actually didn't read this earlier, but there is a little bit of meaning to this move. If white gets the push at e14, so if black plays elsewhere, right? In this shape, this descend can be Sente against this top group, I think. In which case, then there's this move, and if black wants to separate it, you kind of get this kind of shape, which is pretty big endgame and might have some potential to mess around in the corner later. I was wondering if maybe white getting this push here at some point might open up some cut aji or some other potential, but that would be my guess. It's interesting that black also answers, and then white plays this move to force black into a living shape. Yeah, that's basically it. Actually, I'm kind of silly, I think. I'm gonna feel really silly if this is what I think it is. Not quite, but anyway. So now white's created some shape here, but we still don't leave the group. If we just go out to attack, this is basically Sente. Like, you still have to answer, and then you only still have one eye. It's not completely clear. Also, black running out here, so like that can be something that black reserves for later, and black running out here might be annoying. Like, white would want to develop bottom here with all these nice stones, but you don't want to hurt your group. So the natural thing to do is a leaning attack, which is what white does. And black doesn't want to answer, right? If you answer and then white comes here and presses like this, maybe white can Hana now with the help of this stone. White can just extend also. White's getting a lot of potential profit on the bottom side, so we don't like that as black. So what do? We make our group strong so it can't be attacked by capping the other weak group. And that was kind of black's idea when he pulled out this stone. He says, one group's going to be weak of the two, I'll go after the one when the other one gets strong. But, you know, I don't know, it's interesting. Like, basically black has a lot of cash up to this point if we evaluate the board in these areas. I need to compare with that with this is, you know, strong but it's still invadable, and this is strong and realistically uninvadable. You're not going to really make the ko, but it's only, you know, equivalent to maybe one of the corners. You have komi to make up half this corner, so you're really banking a little bit on the attack. You're banking on the potential on the bottom as white. So we just play normal move. This is really normal to make sabaki shape, and then black comes here to take points. Basically, I think black figured that you can attack this group in two ways. You could play here, and then white would have to generally find a way to live inside. You know, something simple. But if this move is not so useful, then maybe we don't want to play that. Maybe it would be better or more profitable to play from the inside. Force white to run out here somehow. Maybe like this, you know, and then attack it like this and build something in the center. Maybe we want more moves that are a little bit further down or such. So it's unclear what the better flow is to attack this group. So black just leaves it and takes a big point. This is actually really big, but it seems a little odd. I think, judging from what happened in the game, maybe black should have played on the bottom. This seems like a really big area to play. But I can understand why black didn't want to have to deal with something like this and potentially have two groups that are going to be running into each other, and maybe even three groups, you know, like this kind of thing. Like, it can get a little bit annoying for black to handle all these things. So it makes sense that black would want to help settle this stone. The problem is white takes this point, which is just as big, if not bigger, and has a little bit of ramifications because this group is not alive yet. And here black's like, okay, I'll just take the corner, thanks for the points, but now white says, okay, you can have more points, and gives away the whole left side. I really don't understand why, like, this is big, but I think black really needs to, like, do something here. I think black probably thought that they could harass this group a little bit to handle the moyo that white's building. But the problem is white just goes for the attack. And you have to be pretty good at reading, because black is just going to defend and then surround this top group. White comes down, very natural. It opens up the cut at Q11. Also isolates this group so you can harass it together, right? If black has the potential to connect, black's going to be stronger. This cut's also possible, and we still see that there's like an Atari and a double Hanan or extend to make some eye shape inside. So of course black's move after defending, white jumps to put pressure on these cuts. I think there might have been some aji in the corner. I'm not entirely sure. I'm a little tired. But like, oh, I actually forgot to make this exchange. This exchange was already made. So there's a little bit of aji with this kind of hana shape type of stuff. I forgot at the beginning that this exchange was made. It's actually really important from a theory point of view. Shoot, I can't do the branch. Okay, just pretend that exchange is there. It doesn't affect the game from this point on. It didn't actually affect this game, but in some games it can affect it. So black peeps, and white just cuts still set to connect under on the side. So white actually managed to save this group. Normally this is not a good result, connecting up on the second line, but white got these moves to attack, and this group is not clearly alive. So this result's actually not bad for white at all. And actually, I think white's in a really good spot now, because if we just look at the board, black has the left and the upper right, but white's bottom side is easily the size of the left, just on the bottom part and this corner. So compare there's two strips here. It's much bigger for white. So black, obviously has to come in. This is decently normal invasion technique. This move is really important. You want to attack from the base. If you just extend or Hana, black's going to Hana, and basically is alive. You might make a Ko. Probably is not even Ko really though, because you could just make two eyes pretty easily. So this descent is more severe. Forces black up. You get this move. Black's not alive at all. You get some forcing moves. This might look like dominant at first glance because it's like there's no points here, but reinforcing the connection with these really puts pressure on this group, so it's not really bad to play it. Black makes some forcing moves and manages to live. This is super painful life, especially because M1 is double Sente, so white got that. So at this point I kind of think game's pretty hard, for black. Like, in terms of points, let's do a quick count. This is roughly what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So roughly 40 minus a bit. Let's say 30. E2 is basically black Sente. The right side is 40, 45, 50, Komi 56, maybe a little bit. So like a little under 60. This left side is what? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could just count the thing actually. This is 10. Minus 4, so that's 26, 32, 40, 38, 39, 40, 42, roughly. And then another 10 plus 4 as 56 plus like 5 here. So roughly 60 also. But the problem is black's group here is quite weak. So if black has to just play endgame, and it's white Sente, but if black just has to play endgame from white harassing, so we see this kind of exchange. Normally here I think black should connect and make eyes somehow. But if white cuts here, the endgame is too big for white, clearly. So black has to be more active. But we just see white kind of wrap up the endgame and push through and cut. So now black is punished for not defending cleanly. Black has to save the stones, white cuts, and actually there's nothing black can do to save this group now. And at this point, black resigned. This exchange was on the board. So the game's actually really quite clean for the most part. There's a few ideas. I think the opening was really interesting. We had this old idea of the solid connection in the upper right, combined with this new idea of the attachment at d16, this kind of interesting invasion, what turned into basically an invasion for black, and white using these thick, relatively strong groups, but they're not super strong, to just take Sente and get the last large point. And then black's basically trying to fight to catch up. But it seems that at this point the game kind of gets out of hand for black. It's interesting that black chooses this territory move. I can understand that it's not clear how to attack this group. I don't really know. I still feel like even though there's the potential for some calamity and mutual attacks, I'll be a little bit tempted to play this way as black, to come to the bottom side. To me that seems like the larger area, but I can understand why white would be reluctant, especially if white's really aggressive, or black would be reluctant, especially if white's really aggressive. What if white just attaches and starts leaning to attack this top group, right? Pretty unreasonable, probably not really good, but if there's something like that, it could be quite annoying. right? You get this kind of splitting attack. Still have the c6 stone to worry about. That being said, this feels like it concedes too much to white, but black might have just felt too comfortable with the point lead. And at this point, I think that the game, there's a little bit of cool reading here, but the game kind of unravels for black. Okay, well, I definitely recommend checking this player out. Some of the other games he's played, and I'll definitely be going over more of them. I just wanted to start with this one. This was the first game that he, she, it played on tygem, so I thought might as well start with that one. And it's also the easiest to see. It's amazing that they can make a professional look so easy to beat. Yeah, so the account name is Master with a capital M and parentheses P. I would definitely check them out. Their games look awesome. Some of them are really much more complicated, but very interesting to watch. Yeah, and so I hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope you learned something too. And I'll catch you all next time. Okay. Good night, everyone.